So the funny thing is, a few weeks ago, well, in 2023, I got the chance to speak at one of the biggest and the best schools in the country, Waterford. And as a kid, I always heard about the school, and uhamba ngebhasi wengcesitwashini ubona lapha eTulentabeni ukuthi kunesikolo. You always have the dream to get there, but obviously as young, I never got the chance to go to that school. But now I went there as a speaker. What a moment of pride for a guy lokulela khoza, ekasi, in a very tough, upbringing. And I remember we started off in a stick and mud. It's not Koko. It was a one room, but we upgraded as life went on. We upgraded. My grandmother, I think, nang talwa, at the George Hotel as a waitress. So I wasn't raised. While other people were raised by a single parent, I was raised by a single grandparent. Which is fun, I guess, seeing as we're here now. But then she got a job at the post office. I don't think it was any serious job really. She worked at the post office, and when she was there, she really worked hard to take me through school. My mom and dad were young when they got me, so I think for her it was really a challenge. So my grandma used to work at the George Hotel, and then she got a job at the post office. As far as I can recall, I was young. And when she was at the post office, that's when I started and whatnot. But we then moved from the stick and mud house and upgraded to it's a brick and mortar, I guess. But it was still a one room. What I like to call, now that I'm old and I know things, as an open plan apartment, a studio apartment. So we lived there, my grand and I, pretty much from preschool until I got to grade 7. So that's a good 8, maybe 10 years really. I remember very fondly my friends who went to Bonazarine, Beeford Primary. I went to St. Michael's Primary. My grandmother and my mother were adamant. I don't know why, but I was young and I thanked them for that opportunity. But I got to study at a school where at the time there were a lot of, I'll say, young people from well-off backgrounds, and you stick out like a sore thumb. You're in class with students who get dropped by cars in the morning, and you come by bus. And obviously I was not the only one coming by bus, but I was not necessarily part of the majority in terms of coming from a properly structured family where there's a mother and a father and there's a proper source of income, and everyone is structured in a way. I remember there was this young boy who spoke a lot of English. I don't know his name anymore, but he used to speak about Sonic the Hedgehog, cartoons, and I had absolutely no idea what he was talking about, But when you're a child and you want to fit in, sometimes you'd listen in as if you know what's going on, but I didn't know for the most part, because for the longest time my grand and I didn't even have a TV, but eventually towards the end of primary we had a TV, and then I started having access to Eswatini TV now, but it was Swazi TV at the time. And now you are relevant, you're having those conversations with people that now you can, now it's a crowd, but the childhood was pretty tough. I'll say tough, not in the sense of lack of love, because I had plenty of that from my parents, from my grandma, but in terms of just resources and having the things that as a child you would want to have. Whether you need them or not is really immaterial, but the things that you would want to have. I was never the kid that had the best or the changes of clothes, for instance, or the soccer boots, or even access to all those extra sort of stuff. Absolutely not. But I look back at it as a very, very rich childhood, because it was spent playing with other kids, it was spent learning from other kids from similar background, but it was also spent creating and building up ambition, because you know what you don't have and you know what you want to have, So yeah, it was really nice, and I love my grandmother to bits. She's still alive. Yeah. What I remember the most about growing up at Khoza is we were the same. You know, the families were the same. We had similar struggles. I was not the only one being raised by my grandmother. There were a couple other friends that I had who were raised by their grandmothers as well. The struggles I had in playing soccer barefoot, you know, was not unique to me. Nanga cause. At school, certainly it was a different thing, because the kids I was with at school had soccer boots and were exposed really to a lot that we weren't. Nang so nang Kasi, I belonged. Nang Skele, I stuck out like a sore thumb, you know. So obviously as a kid, I preferred to be at home, because that's where I felt like this is my tribe. You know, these are the guys that I belong with. Nang Scale, I had that sense of nervousness and anxiety all the time. Also, I was bullied at school because I was a skinny boy and had absolutely no confidence, you know. So it was a place that I really dreaded, you know, and I did not enjoy my primary school experience. I won't lie to you. You know, it was a place of lots of fear, lots of anxiety, from teachers, from classmates. It was bad, you know. But at Manga Khoza, I related, I belonged. I was one of the cool guys, you know, because it was a plain field. No, it's just, you know, it's all of us. What makes me sad though, you know, more than anything, is I don't have a single friend that I had at that time in my life right now. I haven't bumped into anyone, and I'm not saying that they haven't made it, I don't know, you know, because I have not seen anyone who has not made it. I just have not seen anyone, you know, that's the thing. I don't see them on social media, I don't see them in town, I don't see them, I exist in corporate now, I don't see them in corporate, I'm just not seeing anyone. And what makes me sad is there's that possibility that maybe they didn't make it, you know. Of course, there's that possibility that they made it so good that I'm not at that level anymore, which would be nice, but still sad, because I'd love to have that connection, you know, and just reminisce with somebody to say, or when Mlungisi was angry, you know, all of that. So there's no connection anymore, except for maybe the family where which is where we had the brick and mortar type upgrade into our lives. I have access to the family. I'm still, you know, in talking terms with them and all of that. But as for the guys that I played soccer with, the guys that I grew up with, the guys who were my friends, you know, the guys that I woke up in the morning and ran to their house, or they ran to my house, you know, they're not there anymore. I mean, I don't know where they are, pretty much. So yeah, it was a place of, excuse me, I'll say economically poverty, but in terms of love, connection, trust, community, bro, I would pay anything for that. So my childhood is a mixture of two very different experiences. And the Kagaho Poponyani. So Kasigaho is basically like a place of work, you know. During school days or school terms, I'm there. School holidays and weekends, Ngaho, Ekaya, Poponyani. My mom and dad lived in Babane, so I'd have those moments where I'm in Babane. Even they though lived in Mobeni, for instance, which is like a kasi of some sort, because there's nothing really glamorous, you know, if you look at it now, especially at that time. So I have these experiences, and I think I really put them high up there in equal measure, because I built my entire existence in those two or three existences. I would say, because Mobeni and Gakhoza were places where we rented, it wasn't home. You know, we were just there as a means to an end as opposed to an end in itself. But Kaho, Poponyani, that's home, Poponyani. You know, and for me, when I think about giving back, that's probably the place where I'm more rooted. You know, than, not because I'm saying it's better than Ekasi or Mobeni or whatever, no, but Mobeni, I can't go back there now and say, yeah, kusakhayithi la, ufuna kwakha park yabantwana. I can't. I mean, that's an establishment that belongs to government and whatnot. Of course, the same thing is true. We were renting a one room. So I don't have a base in either of these places, but I have a rich connection to them. I don't look at Lakoza or Mweni and think, I wouldn't want to go back. If I had that rootedness into those places, absolutely, I kid you not. The same way I go back to Poponyana now, where I grew up, and do what I can within, the means that I have to assist whosoever I can assist. So I would not say there's a poverty trap anywhere, but I think for those of us who, to some measure, have made it out of the situations we have been brought up in, we have a responsibility to go back there and lift someone else. It could be your brother, it could be your neighbor, it could be your cousin, whoever it is. And lifting someone up is not entirely dependent on you. They also have a responsibility, because I know people that I personally have given opportunities to, and they never showed up, and they're still sitting somewhere saying, hey, Phila does bang on or whatever, but I know the truth, and I'm like, no, but not you. Maybe someone else, could say that. That's the challenge with going back and trying to take the elevator down and pulling it up. Because the point is, I'm bringing it down so I can pull someone up. That's the challenge, I guess. I'll share with you a story. My father once took us to Mozambique. He had an opportunity there and took my baby brother and I. It was really a funny trip because I don't have some beautiful memories really about it. It was a bit traumatic. But I remember he got to Mozambique and bought us clothes at the market. At the market. He couldn't afford, I guess. So I came back home with counterfeit stuff, and I go to school in these counterfeit sneakers. But you're a child, you don't know that these aren't. But you're going to school with exposed kids. They know these things, And I remember this boy, I'm not going to say his name, I remember him so vividly. At the sports field, he made so much fun of me, in those sneakers, and I felt so bad because I didn't know. I was proud of my dad had bought me this. So for me, it was a case of pride. For once, I can speak about something my father bought me, and possibly even brag about it. But it was a moment of weakness, man. It was a moment of sadness, of torture, of brutality. I don't wear a lot of branded items to this day. So anyone that knows me will know, if I'm going to work, I'm not wearing anything with any form of brand. I'm plain all the time, except maybe for sneakers, because I haven't found really a good quality sneaker that doesn't have maybe a certain brand or whatever. But for the most part, I'm plain. I'm plain. I don't want to say it was because of that moment, but I just always felt like, I don't want anything to draw attention to me for whatever reason, good or bad. I don't want to exist. And then I was also skinny. I was very skinny as a kid. I don't think it was an issue of poverty or anything. I think just generally, we've got a small build. But I was that guy, that was picked on all the time. To the point that when I got to high school, I stopped wearing shorts for a good 6 years because I get messed on my legs and my knees, on all of that. So it was really, I had a really, really low self-esteem about my body, myself, and all of that. Until my aunt, I was at university. By some mistake, I went swimming and I came home wearing shorts. And she said to me, "You have such nice legs. I'd love to see them more." And I was like, "What? I don't have nice legs." She's like, "No." But that's like my mother, my aunt. My mother passed on, so my aunt became like a mother figure. So whatever she says to me, I take to heart. I take it seriously, especially when it's validation. From that day on, I started wearing shorts, and nobody made fun of me. Now, when it's summer, I'm in shorts all the time. I don't think I have nice legs, by the way, but and I'm sure I'm her son. She loves me. She will say nice about anything. In fact, no, you understand? So I don't think it was. I think it was biased. It was out of love and whatever. But I believed her. This is who I am now. I still have anxiety. I still have, I still get anxious. I'm in public speaking, by the way, and you know, some people will say nerves are good because it means you take your audience seriously, but I remember a time in my life where even answering a question in class was met with laughter, met with some form of heckling and a bit of bullying. So I associate some of my anxiousness to that time in my life, you know. So I really, look, whenever I get an encounter with a kid, I try to validate them as much as I can, because I feel they possibly could be facing the same thing I faced as a kid, and I don't need to ask them, I don't need to know. I will tell them how smart they are, I'll tell them how pretty they are, how handsome they are, I'll tell them how much I like the small things that they do and all of that, because I feel like if I had had that validation as a kid, I'd probably be better, you know, than I am right now. You know, I always just say when I introduce myself and I speak about my background is, the What's in Kulila means I'm dangerous. I do anything to you at any time. The What's in Kulila as well, at the same time, means I can control it. Because what happened is, and I'm not throwing any shade to a gas, there's almost little to no rules. In Yankula, that was rough. You didn't walk at night. So come down here, I'm going to sections and get a maspala. During hard days, there were a lot of thugs. You know, I remember a guy, one of my uncles that we loved fondly, not uncle in blood, but a Madu Masakas. But just behind the Basala was shot at 2 a.m. You know, I won't say by who, but an establishment shot him, killed him. And he was a menace. You know, he was in and out of jail. He was one of those guys. You know, shot and killed him. That was our reality at that time. They didn't shoot everyone every day. I'm not gonna lie about that. No, absolutely not. But I know about this one person. I know a lot of guys who ended up in jail. You know, but Papunya and Kaya, it was and still is to this day community. You know, in Kaya Lagitla, in the Bagazulu, who are related to. TV song trending yabona sitting room kujo lokhala kubo sofa bababe lomkhulu yabo sitaba kugisa so bakhona la mhlala bo sofa labo, by the way, so maybe kids shouldn't sit on couches, you know. Siyaphuma sonke siyemfuleni siyokhemandi yabona ekhaya bathenga libhara sinelibhara nyana sakufanele ukuthi uthwale enhloko noma uphathe ngesandla sinelibhara babe lomkhulu uthenga itruck iloli lencane bese ibita ngenkabendala i40 lenzala ya leqinile. You know, it's a community project brought by the Taiwanese. You harvest them and then put a line, let him bomb. Say, Hamba songs you coop and let you know, nothing home on a car, but let's puma, you know, all of that. That's where the Pola and Yagani. Same full and your push, as well as Wabilang before, put your logawaja, letting gozi, you know, and so that sense of community, and then coming this side and also appreciating the differences in existence between the two areas. I felt, you know, and I still believe this, it gave me a certain advantage about understanding people and the different societies. Then there's the middle ground, which is now Mobile in Baban, and you meet the kids that speak English, you know, Labangas and Nale Swat in Baban, who go to the Model C schools, and they go to the mall, and they play hockey, bruh, and it's like, what is this that you play? You know, and they have a different set of social space. So you have an experience of three, you know, very rich backgrounds, and wherever, and you're experiencing all of these things in real time. I think that on its own is a superior advantage, you know, towards growing up in a society and being very tolerant, because you understand, ufanele baganje, ukhulele poponya, and ngilokuvela kwathi, ufanele phila kuba ganje, ukhulele kakhoza, and it's all he knows. You know, that's his socialization. But when you were socialized in all three different ways, you have the tolerance, you have the understanding, you have also the appreciation and the love of the pros and the cons of all of these, you know. So it was, I think I'm very advantaged. Not even bullied, you know, in school, and then growing up and then learning about people's traumas. So I can't bona hi man, the picture was beautiful from the outside, but inside it wasn't really as nice. And he needed a place to release, and I was, you know, his punching bag, and he did that, you know, And nothing changed for him, but I hope he was released for those 2 minutes. This engineering thing is really funny because I was already doing public speaking in high school. So the immediate and easy choice was law. Go there, I mean, you can talk, bro. So go there and be a lawyer and argue cases and whatnot. And my mother was working for a law firm. And after high school, I lived with her for a bit. She passed away a year, in the first 12 months after I finished high school. So I was living with her for about 11 months before she passed on. And hers was a public speaking wish. I mean, a law wish. But I don't know where she got the sense of exposure and motherly love of asking me what I wanted to do. And I said to her, public speaking. But there was no career outside of law, you know, in that. And she didn't understand it, but she was like, oh, okay, so what do you need? And I remember we had a gig to speak at one of the schools in Manzini. And I said to her, I need 50 rand. It was for transport for the following day, you know. And I'm sure what people just 50 rand. Why? And I was like, no, I'm Manzini. One of the schools was speaking to prefects the following day. She gave me the money and I went. I knew it was never going to work in Eswatini, but there was just so much hope in South Africa. Which, you know, if I could tap into that market, I could have, you know, that. None of my parents could finance that. Their financial situation was not good enough for me to say I could pursue my dreams, and they would back it up. No matter how much my mother loved the idea, she couldn't back it up financially, because ultimately that's where everything really lands. Do you have the money to pursue it? No, I didn't have. So I applied for medicine in SA, and I did O-level, but I guess I did pretty well because I got accepted at one of the universities in SA, which I will not say where, to pursue that. But that's a 7-year degree. For me, the point was getting out of the country as opposed to the degree. It was a case of if I leave here and I go to SA, I'll find a way. I'll do my primary job, which is to learn, but I will find a way to pursue my side hustle, right? And then in December, my mother passes on. I don't have a scholarship, I don't have anything. I'm working at the time for Truworths. It's my gap year. I'm working my second job. My first job was as a bus conductor in Pixpick. I was a sliding door operator. Nobody knows this. Well, a few people know it. Yeah, I was an assistant driver. Yeah, but my second job, I was working at Truworths in Babane. And shout out to Truworths for giving me a chance. My mom passes away. So Truworths says, look, continue working. You know, my boss, Tebile, a mother. Peter, let's see what happens. Keep working. I'm gonna give you more hours. I will not hire you permanently because you don't belong here. You know, I see you as something bigger than this. You know, at that point I'm like, just give me a job, bruh. Permanent. She's like, no, I love you, and I love you enough to say you need to go to university in whatever way. And then the following year, I applied at another university now because I can't do 7 years. Even if I get a scholarship, I mean, I can't do 7 years. Who's gonna support me? I applied at this university. I get accepted for chemical engineering, and I've heard about it from a friend, you know, who's like a bigger brother-ish, same age group. But I just like how cool it is. Speaks about engineering, and it's like, yo, this thing is nice. And I get accepted, you know, for this engineering, and I go to the University of Johannesburg, and I study chemical engineering. But my pursuit is, I just want South Africa. I was lucky enough to get a scholarship. I got it late. So I ended up starting school in about April, May, when everybody else started in January because I had no scholarship. So I got in and had to fight really hard to pass my first semester. But that happened. Wasn't that tough, I guess. When I get into engineering, I start joining these organizations in school that will allow me the chance to get on a podium and speak. You know, I get on a podium and speak until I get by mistake a gig from the SRC. I was part of an organization that was next to the school hall, and they were hosting a first year's bash at the school hall. And we were in a meeting for this organization, ABZ Foundation. Their judges and MC were from a radio station. I think it was Kai FM. I remember it was Dr. Love, a famous South African broadcaster at the time. They were stuck in traffic, so they couldn't make it on time. So the SRC comes to us and says, gents, we need 3 judges and an MC. And it was 4 of us. The guys are like, no, you already have an MC, it's him, pointing at me, and we can be the judges. We're not even dressed for the occasion. or not dress for the occasion. But I'm like, yeah, man, jump to the opportunity. It's what I've wanted, what I've been waiting for. And then I go there, a hall, maybe 1,000 students, possibly even more. You know, obviously getting agitated, was supposed to have started by now, what's going on? I jump on stage, host the event. One of the best events I've ever hosted in my life, changed my life forever. It was the opportunity I've been waiting for. And from that day on, the SRC was giving me gigs to host. I remember the MC walked in the middle of it, and they came to me and said, so our MC is here now, we're gonna hand over. So I'm like, okay, fine, our judges are there. As I was walking off, I was by the stage because an activity was happening on the stage. They came back and said, he says he can't take over from that. I'm like, whoa, what? They're like, yeah, no. He says continue, he's enjoying the show. So he ends up being a guest and I do it. And that's how it started, my career, at least in MCing in South Africa. You know, started in that way. And I guess, as they say, the rest is history. I started in high school public speaking. It's crazy, man. I don't even know what public speaking is, because all of these things are public speaking, you know. But for me, the way that it started and was formed was when I was in high school. I went to Phila High School in Pixpick under the leadership of Phila Dlamini, Michael Phila Dlamini, the late, one of my biggest encouragers and inspirations in my life. And he was starting this thing of teaching young people how to be confident when I got to high school. It happened by happenstance that it was starting from MCing. And sabane party class le fula bala kalen wakala ngathi. So the task was every morning they would pick consecutively, like from each class, like consecutive classes, 2 young people, 2 students, a girl and a boy, to go up front and present. You know, when they were I was the first in my class with a young girl. So when I got to stage, this young girl did really well, and I did horribly to the point where I was asked to do it again. Embarrassing. Now you can imagine in primary where I was bullied, with the guy at school, and I do so bad in my first week in front of 1,400 students, and the bullying that came out after that, you know, the fun and whatnot. So for me, it was a reaction of, I'm going to be here for 5 years. It will come back to me at some point. This thing is happening at such a high frequency that at some point, so it was a response to say, when my next opportunity comes, I want to do better. In fact, I want to do best. Started reading, started practicing on my own. From 2, I got into a verbal scuffle with a gent who was a prefect over a pencil. Phila Dlamini, known as Dipapi. He made my friend to this day. We fought over a pencil. And he had the wisdom, from 3, to say, if you can fight for a pencil this well, would you mind joining my debating team if I give you the pencil? That's where I met the likes of Mangoba Mabuza, the likes of Phila PH.D, and so many others in that debating team. And my career in public speaking started. My first debate was in the US-Iraq war. And I think I was in the same team as Mangoba and Fanele. And we knocked it off the park and started traveling the country doing debates, debating against other schools, St. Mark's, and from then on I never really stopped. And then I became the head boy in my school, and I made it a point, through Mangoba Mabuza's inspiration. He used to deliver with his brother Majaonga these inspirational speeches at morning assembly, and I wanted to do as good or better, you know, but they were ahead of me. And then they left school, and I was like, this is my time to shine. You know, my mentors are gone. I must keep the flag flying high. And I was doing that over and over again. Maybe every month, at least once or twice every month, doing speeches and stuff. And then in Form 5, I met a guy called Sanjile Bembe, and he was a head boy at St. Mark's the year before I was in Form 5. And they were starting this organization to train prefects, and I joined that. And we've been doing that ever since, close to 20 years now, I guess. And that's what it really became. So for me, public speaking was training on leadership and academic excellence, delivering speeches, debating. That's what it was. I've never thought of myself as funny enough to be a comedian, for instance, or as smart enough to be a lawyer, or whatever the case might be, but I can handle you know, the debates, research on the title, and argue on it, you know, memorize a speech and go and deliver it word for word. You know, that was really fun for me as a 15, 16-year-old. So that's how it started, and that's what it was for the most part. I started from absolutely nothing, zilch. I started from zero, from nothing. So if you're sitting and you're watching this and you want to be either a comedian, either you know, a motivational speaker, you want to be an MC, you want to anything in public speak, and you have nothing but just the yearning, the passion and whatnot, that's enough for you to start. The next step is to find the activity. What is the activity where you can go and fail? I remember when I came back from Joburg, I've been hosting events in Johannesburg, and I came to Eswatini and I wanted to move into the Swazi space. And my friends at Arts Awake, Musa and Bego, the storyteller, gave me a chance to host an event at a theatre club. I went in, it was sponsored by the US Embassy, it was massive, you know, in my standards. But the first minute I was on stage, I messed up biblically. I called the first artist by the wrong name. I went backstage, I'm like, whoa, what was I supposed to say? And they tell me, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's bad. And I had to go back and find a way. Because even when I was saying it, the audience showed me good eye. But I couldn't get it because I'm nervous. Doing it for the first time. And I go back, they tell me there's a comeback. When I come back with so much grace, you know, nice, very, you know, calm apology, do it well. I don't think anyone who was at that show remembers that flop. I was not the smartest in my class. I was not the most well-spoken or the most articulate. I can count the people by name in high school. Phila Dlamini were easily the smartest. Bokulile and them, they were very smart. In terms of speaking, you know, speak really, really well. Even them, Bofanele and them, speak well. I feel like the things were paired. You know, the difference maybe with me is I had the passion for it. I really wanted to pursue it. You know, I know guys who would speak right next to me, and you possibly say, hey Phila, I saw you there, you know, but they are not as passionate as I am, you know, around the area of human development, public speaking, and. So what set me apart from everyone else is I wanted it. Yo, I feel like I failed so much in my life, I could have a master class on failure. I could sit down and speak to people about failure. Not teach them how to fail, but show them that failure is part of the journey. You know, there's no success without failure, I believe. You know, it's not two things on the opposite ends. I failed so much. I mean, the first time I went into a stage, I ran away, pretty much. I've already shared that the first time I hosted an event, I messed up. And now in the public speaking space, I've hosted some of the biggest gigs in the country, of Eswatini at least. I've spoken in South Africa, in almost every province, including the Northern Cape, where people hardly ever go, really. I've gone to Zimbabwe. I haven't spoken in Botswana, but I've been to Botswana as well through speaking, you know, and I think I'm still going to go to many other countries. In almost each of those territories where I've spoken, I've made a mistake. In almost each of those territories where I've spoken, I have failed in what I was trying to deliver. You know, I've gone back home and thought to myself, wow, that was bad. I can trace this back to high school when I started. So I know for a fact that it might not be possible for you to achieve this in a week or in a month, maybe not even in a year. Because looking at my own journey, it has taken me years of preparation. I did not know I was preparing at that time. I thought I was delivering. But as I was failing, I was realizing I was not well prepared. I was realizing I didn't know it as much as I thought that I knew it. I was realizing I wasn't as good as I thought that I was, you know, and I had to put in more work. Because I was passionate though, whenever I met that failure, that disappointment, that not meeting expectations, I went back to my drawing board and said, how could I have done it better? You know, how could I have interacted with those people, with that crowd, better than I did. You know? And I also took feedback. There's many people who have told me that you bombed. Yeah. There's many people like that, and as hurting as it is, if you really love what you're doing, you ask yourself, how can I perform in front of the same person for them to say the opposite? I have people now, and I consider myself seasoned, who will say, "Well, you're tired." I'm like, "No, I was giving my best," and they're like, "No, you seem tired. You looked as though you're not interested." You know, and I thought I was giving my utmost. So it still shows that even now, with all the experience I have, with all the events I have under my belt, and how good people have told me that I am, or how I think I am, I still have moments of not meeting, you know, the minimum expectations from some of the guys that know maybe what I did before, you know. So it's not going to be easy. Hey man, look, you know, in public speaking, I think the one thing that is most difficult is reading a room, being able to understand who you are speaking to and why you are speaking to them. You know, there's three things that I think are important in public speaking. The one is confidence. That's absolutely, you must be confident. You must overcome the fear. I'm anxious every time to this day. I don't sleep the night before an event because I'm so afraid of failing, you know. It's a good litmus test for me to show that I still take my job seriously, however long I've done it, however good I think I am. The second one is content. You must know what you're talking about. You know, when you're going to host an event for a construction company, know something about construction. You know, do your work, do your due diligence. You're gonna host Luju. You know, it's fashion, it's music, it's food. You need to immerse yourself in all those things. No matter how much you say you are Phila, I don't wear branded items, I'm not into clothes, however I look, it doesn't matter. Hey Baba, look good for Luju. Take it serious, show everybody, show up, you know, be a part of it. So be very immersed in the content as well. If you're speaking in a specific industry, make sure you spend time knowing about that industry. What's the crux of where you, it's not just about being confident to speak in front of people. What are you speaking to them about? How many people have you seen who annoy us? Then it's like, can he just move? Because the content is not there. And then third and most importantly, as I said earlier, is the crowd. Read the room. Respect people. Understand the context of the people that are there, your audience. Whether you are calling them or call, don't go there and disrespect them. Also where you're speaking to a group of people whose ideologies you don't support or you don't subscribe to. It's not about you when you're an MC. It's about them, your room, your crowd. How can my opinions is however when we're giving you the space and it's about you? But for the most part, if you're hired for an event, it's about the event, delivering it to its purpose, and not you as a person. You know, element of discipline earlier. For me, on time is already late. I respect people. If an event starts at 11, I offer myself completely. Do you want me there at 8? I host weddings, for instance. I always tell the people that my job is to make sure that you have one less thing to worry about. That's my job. I don't want you to be chasing me around. So who pick Phila? Phila PH.D. You know, where's my special microphone? No, what's available? How can I make sure we make this event work? My brand is on the line. And I will never get the opportunity to say, no, the sound guys, we're not doing a great job. No, I must show up every time I say I'm going to show up. People must know I'm reliable. People must know that when I'm handling their event, they have one less thing to worry about all the time. There's so much competition in the space. For instance, I'm just an MC. It's all that I am. But there's people that do other things who are also MCs. You know, there's people that are DJs who are MCs. There's people who are comedians who are MCs. People who are pastors who are MCs. You know, and that's all that I do. I'm just an MC. You know, outside of my career, obviously. One thing I love about all of it, though, I can count 5, 6 MCs in this country that I love, who, when I see they're hosting an event, I'm like, I could just be going there for Ndosh, for instance, or for Mdura, or for P.O., or for Anelo, or whatever the case, Jovicho, for instance. They're so different from me, you know. So anybody who asks me to host their event, I always ask them what they want to achieve, for instance. Because if your event is more about, it's a relaxed setting, and you want people to laugh from beginning to the end, you are probably better off with a comedian, you know, like Mdura, who will just, from the time he says hello, people are just laughing, you know, because he has it in him. Ocho Vicho, Ondosh, or whatever. If your event is high end, it's a high tea, it's proper corporate, you want people that speak clean English and whatnot, I'll recommend Anelo or P.O. because I know they will offer you that better than me. But if you want a well-rounded, you know, event that has maybe a mixture of both, you know, there'll be those moments of you know, seriousness, we're speaking maybe English and blah blah blah, but you want a bit of tradition, Siswati, this and that, I'll probably just say, yeah, no, I'm good for that, because as I said, my background, I have all of those things on lockdown. So the good thing about the competition in this particular industry is that it's mostly dictated by the needs of that particular event. So I don't have to worry about it. You know, I don't feel that my competitors in the industry are envious of me or jealous of me or whatever. I feel like we complement each other because then we offer the full variety of what is needed by events in the country. I'm friends with most of my competitors, by the way. You know, the names I've dropped right now are people that I have got a personal relationship with. And when I see them work, I'm genuinely happy for them. And I've seen them giving me feedback. And you can pick when someone is not being genuine with you. And none of them have not been genuine. You know, I found missed calls or calls or gotten calls from them after I did an event, and they're like, brah, you killed it. You know, you killed that. I've called them to say, yo, my man, I was in stitches the entire time. You know, I wasn't sitting there thinking, yeah, if it was me, I'd do better. You understand? So I guess that's the best way for me to approach it. Ngabe kuyaqala ngisengase ngeva ngisho lokuncane ngebandla ukuthi imdula bekathi vele wena ukabi ontosho, no. All I've heard is good things from my competitors, and I look at them not as competitors but as complementers, you know. And I think in an industry as small as ours, that's possibly the best way to approach this, you know, to be able to look at each other and say, no, Lila yakon Chalilsan. The truth of the matter is, no, I can't. No, I can't. I wish I could, you know, but I can't. I guess obviously for those that don't know me, I'm a learning and development head or specialist. So I have a full-time job, and I am, like most people, one paycheck away from poverty, you know, sadly. So I wish we can get to a point where this could be something in Eswatini. Some of my collaborators, some of my complementers, or if you want to call them competitors, are living solely on this, but not just being an MC, you know, the comedians, that this, that that, that that, they offer other services. So it's a bit of a tricky one, you know, and while we are actively, intentionally and consciously building the industry, so hopefully it will get to a point like that. We have a very small population, there's only a certain number of events really, but I hope we can get to a point where one event a month is as good as a salary from a permanent job, you know. That's all we need. We're not saying let's have events every day so I can charge 1,000 every day. No, let me charge 40,000 like my South African counterparts for one event. You know, that's a basic salary, a good salary, for instance, for a middle income job, you know, in the country. Even after tax, that's good for a person to be able to live, you know, throughout the month and raise a family and have all the necessities in life, you know. So I would say let's pursue it consciously together, and let us hold ourselves in high standards and singavumi anything less than what we deserve, and then we'll create the industry. 3 tiers for me. The first one is stop using employees. Like, I'm not saying employees are not good enough, but I feel like then there's that element of exploitation of saying, because you work here, it's part of your job, we're not going to pay for this, you know. And then secondly, please reduce bringing in people from outside. You know. Third and most important, if you're willing to pay somebody from South Africa 70 to 100 grand to host an event for one night, do the same for the locals. Do the same for the locals. I've seen locals who are as good or even better. And I know you will say, yeah, but an SA artist or personality will bring in people by just being here. And they're doing that because their country invested in them. You know, if you do the same for us, we will do the same as well. Then PhD will be able to bring in 200 people that come just solely for him. You know, but until you do that, then it's not going to happen. You know, I'm not saying it's easy. I'm in corporate myself, and I know it's about bottom line and. But if we say we are really investing in the, you know, social aspect of this kingdom of our country, then let it not be lip service. Let's put our money where our mouth is. You know, eventually it will pay off. That's why we've seen great artists like Sands come out of the country, because somebody invested in them. You know, we're seeing Uncle Waffles now taking over the world. Somebody invested, you know, in the country, however little, and then somehow it got traction and then it was international. You know, let's not only associate with them because now they're suddenly international. No, let's be deliberate. Utawaji now, whatever corporate, it's okay, this Phila guy, this PhD is where they are because we put in, you know, an investment in them. So that would be my advice. Of course, I work for a corporate and I'm also in the industry, but I would rather corporates invest deliberately in those three ways. Less and less use of employees, you know, unless you will treat them as talent and you're saying to them, come in and contract, you know, and we're investing in you as talent, maybe you can think about that. Secondly, where possible, reduce importing talent. We have talent here. And then the price you're willing to import the talent with, pay to the locals as it is, unfiltered. It's treated like a crew and not as talent. It's not good enough. Yeah.